I almost quit. Let me tell you what I mean. So it is, at the time of the recording of this video, the end of July 2024. And I almost quit. I never quit anything in my life. I've seen everything through until I've decided it was time to be done with the thing. I've never quit in the middle of any process. I've never quit before I achieved what my goals were. But let me tell you, this time, I almost quit. You could even say I quit. Almost. And what I mean by that is, with what I'm going to discuss in today's video, I got to the point of feeling my back was against a wall, trapped in a corner, no other option than to quit and to give up on my dream and to figure out a new plan. But thankfully, this video is to tell you that I did not quit. And when faced with that challenge, specifically, I'm going to mention what that challenge was in a little bit. I'm very grateful that all of my conditioning in life, everything I've been through, did not allow me to quit. It forced me intuitively to find a solution to the problems I was facing, of which I did. And that's why now I can record this video with a smile on my face after a big giant exhale and about 1,000 more. I can finally say that I am officially a Costa Rican resident, a resident of this beautiful country of Costa Rica. And I have so many people to thank. But mostly, looking at myself in the video right now, Toby, thank you for sticking with it, for not giving up, and for focusing on the dream so much that everything else, all the other issues, problems, fears, trepidations, stumbles, fell off by the wayside. So that's a little bit of speaking to myself. I will do the rest is to you, the listener, subscriber, viewer who stumbles upon my video. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this is an insightful, helpful video. Essentially, what I'm going to discuss is how to become a resident in Costa Rica, the entire process of applying for residency, everything you would need to gather and get and achieve and knock off your checklist, and to do this all by yourself. Most people go the route of hiring an attorney, expediting the process for themselves, and as a result, having a much more expensive process and having no control over any of the process itself. I personally preferred to stumble through it myself and figure out how to do it, and hopefully at the end of the process I would have obtained residency without having to, use the help of an attorney, which there's nothing wrong with, but I was just looking to save some money and also to become really self-reliant, self-sufficient. If anybody's seen my House Hunters International episode, that was the idea coming in here. I wasn't going to hire an electrician, a plumber, an attorney for this, that, contractors. I was going to learn to do everything myself as best I could. Hire people where I needed to. For example, when I was buying my house and starting my corporation, I used an attorney. But for my residency process, I have not used an attorney the entire time, and I've now completed it. So I'm a temporary resident. In 3 years, I can change that residency status to permanent resident if I choose, which I will do. And then after 5 years of cumulative residency, so that's the 3 years of temporary and 2 years of permanent, I can apply to be a citizen of Costa Rica, which would allow me to get a passport. And there is a test involved in that and some studying and which I'm looking forward to, and I'm already doing the studying since I've been living in Costa Rica. So anyway, to the process. Essentially this video is me ending the residency process, but I'm going to go over it from the beginning, from the first stage, for anybody that's listening that, might want to become a Costa Rican resident. I will give you the process that essentially you would be paying your attorney to do, but if you wanted to do it yourself, I'm going to give you kind of checklist of everything that you would need to do. And of course, the migration office is going to have updated information because I started my process in 2021. It's now 2024. It's taken me just about 3 years to get through the whole process and approved. But like I said, there was a couple fumbles along the way that I'm going to explain in this. And then some other things I'm going to discuss are health insurance. Here they call it Caja. With the Social Security, you have to register. So I'm going to discuss some revelations that I've derived from that process as well. Also touch upon some remote work things that have come into this situation through necessity, and then some things that happened, dynamics that occurred with friends and business partners, and just a kind of anecdote on how people come through when we need help, and sometimes when it's least expected, and it's just about maintaining a certain disposition so that the universe can allow precipitation of our manifestations. If we're frustrated, if we're nervous, if we're scared, that usually doesn't allow blessings to flow into our conduit, right? So this is kind of what I will discuss at the end of the video, and then as a result of this whole process, what I felt stem up inside of me or pool up inside of me as a result emotionally, and how that's driving me now that I've obtained a residency. So anyway, into the process. As a residency starts, there are some vital documents, and this is specifically for United States citizens looking to become Costa Rican residents. I don't have specifics on Canadian or European immigration, and of course other continents like Asia and Africa. I'm completely clueless as to regulations, but this is for the United States specifically. Anybody migrating from the United States to Costa Rica looking to become a temporary and eventually a permanent resident, here is the process that you have to go through. So first and foremost, you would need to obtain your birth certificate, the official one from the government agency. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure who it is because there's like the Department of State and all these different places you've got to contact, but it's quite easy. Look up how to find your birth certificate. There is also, I need to mention, a place in Jaco, Costa Rica, called Precision Immigration that can help you obtain all these documents. I believe the guy's name was Craig, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. It's been a couple years. Who runs Precision Immigration. He was a former Canadian immigration officer who is relocated to Costa Rica and opened this business to help people with relocation. So really knowledgeable guy, knows the process. So let me touch upon this. When I first submitted my background check, I believe it was, because it was during COVID, when I had ordered my birth certificate and background check, the two vital documents that you need to get from the United States, there is a process that they have to go through. So it's not just ordering a birth certificate and a background check, but then you have to order both of those to be sent to the Department of State, and I think the birth certificate goes somewhere else, and they need to be apostilled, which is like a stamp and a signature, which is basically a certification from the government that not only is that your birth certificate, but it's still valid and legitimate, and you're an upright citizen of sorts. So it's like just a secondary step of validation. In my personal opinion, it's silly and unnecessary that it has to be shipped to another place and then sent to all these other places. This should be in the same building, the same department. Obviously you're going to need to apostille birth certificates, you're going to need to apostille background checks. Why not have the person who does the apostilling in the same place that the birth certificate and background checks are printed? Just my suggestion, just an idea after reflecting on this process. For a country that considers itself like the leader of the world and a first world country, the United States has some broken processes that don't make sense, that add a lot of extra headaches, not only to the citizen, but you guys, the government. If anybody's watching, like, you can make your lives so much easier and everybody's lives so much easier. But anyway, that's not the point. So You'll get the apostilled background check from the FBI. You'll get the apostilled birth certificate from the Department of State or whomever, gives that one. And then you have to fill out the application letter. So there's a general application letter. You can find this online, or of course your attorney is going to have this printed up. But it's easy to find online. You just go to the Department of Migration for Costa Rica, and there's an application form. You have to fill out your name, your citizenship, age, occupation, address or P.O. box in Costa Rica at the Correo, reasons you want to be a resident, and the names of your parents. That's a thing, apparently. And then as you're in Costa Rica and you're going through this process, I guess this can be done in the United States too, but you'll need 3 recent passport photos, and they have to be a specific size for the Costa Rican passport, which is different from the United States passport. What's nice is in San Jose, right across the street from the U.S. Embassy, there's a place that does the passports, and you can specify this is what I'm looking for, what I need. Also in most towns like Parita, Jaco, Quepos, there are passport places, but they're not necessarily trained to take the specific government issued ID passport photos, so you just got to make sure it's the right size. Otherwise you'll get it done 2 or 3 times, which is not a big deal. And then after that, and you start to accumulate all these things in a file, you're gonna, of course, have a meeting. You're gonna have your first appointment scheduled at migration for the state that you live in. So I live in the state of Punta Arenas, which is also, Punta Arenas, the city, is the capital of the state of Punta Arenas. So in Punta Arenas, the city is where the direction of migration is, migration. I'm speaking in Spanglish, I'm sorry. And so I had to make an appointment there. Usually takes a few weeks or a couple months to get that appointment. And then once you're there, you have to accumulate all these things and bring them to your first meeting. And you'll meet with a migration officer. They'll go over everything, make sure it's all valid and in the timeline that it's needed. And they'll take all the documents. They'll give you back a sheet that says you've so far completed all of these, and these are the ones that you need to complete to continue for the next stage. So you'll schedule a second meeting. And in the second meeting, you'll bring the remainder of the things that you need to bring that they gave you on that second checklist, right, on that printed out one. And then you'll schedule a third meeting. And after the third meeting, or after the second meeting, I should say, they'll give you another little checklist of things you need to do. Couple little things, and the fact that this is broken up into 3 meetings seemed a little ridiculous and redundant to me. Like, why not just give this task list and get it all done at once? Honestly, it would have been overwhelming to have the 30 things to do for the first meeting, so I think that's why they break it up with like the most important things, the time-sensitive things like the birth certificate, the background check, and then the less time-sensitive things that come in the future. So that said, in the first stage are some not so time-sensitive things, but I think there's some guarantees that you're making deposits and payments. So you'll have to do a payment and a receipt for deposit of $50, but in local colones into a bank account, and you have to keep all these receipts because that's what gets submitted, right? Then there's another payment that you have to keep a receipt of 2.5 colones, which is like a fraction of a penny. I'm not even joking. It's like maybe half a penny. Yeah, I think that's half of a penny in United States currency. And then you have to have a receipt for that. So what's wild is like, why aren't those 2 payments consolidated? Why is this next payment not consolidated? They all go into the same account. So the next one is a payment receipt of $200 deposited into the same account, and you must have that receipt in your name too. So you need 3 receipts from 3 deposits, a 200, a 50, and then like a half a penny, and they all go into the same account. So that just seems like a little redundant, something that could be consolidated into one payment. But nonetheless, it's the process. You also have to complete something called the filiation or filiation form. You have to have proof of consular registration. So consular registration is registering as the Smart Traveler program on the U.S. Embassy's website, which is recommended for anybody coming to Costa Rica, but they'll give you like a little sheet that says that you are on the Smart Traveler program, and then you submit that. That's proof of your consular registration. I'm just looking here. Yeah, so very easy. You just need your valid passport, and they'll photocopy all of the pages that have any stamps for any entry or exit you've done from Costa Rica in the time that you've had the passport. The copies must be certified by a public notary. So actually, I stand corrected. That's something that you'll have to do. You'll have to get the copies of the passport made, and then a public notary, who typically is an attorney, they're all usually registered as a public notary. Just go to an attorney, and you'll pay for just that document, which might be $20, at most $50, but probably closer to $20, and they'll do the notary stamp and sign it, and then you're good to go with the passport pages. Usually what they'll have to do, and you'll see them stapling a receipt of something, and it might not even be your receipt, it's just a receipt from that day that has the date on it, so it validates that it's a current signature from the attorney, and that's part of the process here in Costa Rica. And the other thing for the first part of the process that you'll have to do is fingerprint registration with the Ministry of Public Security in San Jose, which is essentially their main police station in Costa Rica, in San Jose, for the public police department. And yeah, you just book an appointment. It's like any other appointment you would book. You can get there much quicker, obviously, than like a migration appointment. So usually when you book within a few days, you can get an appointment. You go up to San Jose. I can't remember exactly where it was. It wasn't necessarily near the U.S. Embassy, but it was kind of in a downtown area, pretty easy to find. I waited no more than 10 minutes. They did the fingerprints really quick, took pictures of all my tattoos, and just asked me a couple basic questions like name, where I'm from, occupation, and that's it. Very easy. And then they keep the record of that, and I think they just install it in a system that, you know, the migration has access to. So that's phase one of migration. In a moment, I will come back and give phase two. Hey guys, phase two starts now. So if you have any questions about anything that I went over in phase one, just feel free to write them in the comments. Again, this is not a process I've done dozens of times as an attorney for all of my clients. This is a process I've done once. Stretched over about 3 years, so if I missed something or I neglected to say something, I apologize, but I tried to make notes of everything I had done through the process on a couple pieces of paper here and also on my iPad, but I just wanted to give, basic guideline and bullet point. Obviously, cross-check this by Googling it and see what other migration and attorneys websites have in Costa Rica. I know there's a lot, if you just Google, a lot of people are giving a lot of really high quality information, exactly what I'm giving, but I just wanted to give a video version of this from somebody who's done the process themselves and is not just writing in text theoretically on the internet and copy, but actually giving you a face-to-face voice of somebody that's gone through it, has experienced the frustrations. And speaking of, going back to the first phase of my process, because it was pandemic when I ordered my birth certificate and my background check, there is what I believe or remember to be a 6-month expiration on both of those. And my first migration meeting was beyond 6 months of one of them. I think it was the background check, which I got first. So they accepted my birth certificate because that fell under the 6 months. But my background check was rejected, so I had to contact Craig at Precision Immigration to reorder me another background check from the U.S. that was apostilled. And thankfully, I have no criminal record. I never have, I never will. So that's clear. And obviously I was approved for residency, so I'm all good. But that was a little scary at first because this entire time I thought, okay, if I mess up one phase of this, I'm gonna, not get residency or something. That's not the process. They just give you more time. They have patience. They accept all the documents, so it's not like I had to resubmit every document I had done already. They process those, the ones that I needed to resubmit. They accept them whenever I have them. Again, as long as it falls within that 6-month period. So it takes a little bit of scheduling coordination. You have to really plan your first migration meeting within the 6 months that you're receiving the apostilled birth certificate and background check. During the pandemic, it was way more difficult because the United States government was shut down. The mailing system was much different, and everybody essentially in the world was confused, scared, neglectful, a million things. So it took an extra long time for me to get my background check and my birth certificate from the US because most of those offices were shut down in 2020 when I moved to Costa Rica. So I don't imagine you'll encounter that problem, but in case you might experience some type of delay or issues, contact Craig at Precision Immigration and he will get everything for you, because when I ordered it from him, I think I had it, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks later, less than that, and then I already had my next migration appointment set up and they accepted it, obviously. So as you move into the next stage, it's really only a couple of deposits and then you have to get registered with health insurance. So this does not happen until you get your approval letter after your third migration meeting. Once you've submitted all of your documents, and they'll give you a sheet that says you've submitted everything, now it's just a waiting game. And again, this is going to vary for each of you that's watching this year to year, because I came here during pandemic. I applied for residency during a time in Costa Rica's history where more people from around the world were applying for Costa Rican residency than ever before. So what I was told when I inquired about why it's taking so long, actually with my attorney Andres Tristan Gomez, who helped me buy my house and start my corporation, I said, do you have any idea what's going on? Like, why is it taking so long? Do any of your clients, did they receive residency approval yet? And he had told me there's roughly 10,000 people on the waiting list, and that there's only so many people in these offices that process the residency. So it just takes time. It's a patience game. So I would say after my final meeting, when I received the sheet that said I've submitted everything, so they had everything, now it's a matter of just stamping approval on it. It took, I want to say just about a year, but it could have been a year and a half just to get notified that I got approved for residency. So this is where the story gets interesting, right? Because so now it's the end of July 2024. I received my approval for residency, I believe April 17th was the approval date, and I received the letter, the email, like a few days after, I don't know, the 25th or something like that. So I had from April 17th to July 17th, so you have 3 months from the receival of your approval to make 3 deposits into the bank, one of which is a refundable deposit that you get back after 3 years of temporary residency with no blemishes on your record. If you choose to change to permanent residency, you'll get that money back, and then you'll pay $200 to convert to permanent residency, and you're a permanent resident. But you get back this $350, more or less, deposit that I had to give. So the one is very big. It's a $350 deposit into one bank account, and this is for like a guarantee or a deposit for migration. For example, if I do something that gets me deported from the country, they buy a ticket for me to leave with that money. They hand it to me and I have to leave. That's what would happen if somebody does something illegal or whatever while they're in this process of residency. That's what that deposit guarantees, is the exit ticket. So if you're from Europe and you're applying for it, it's going to be $1,500. If you're from Asia, it might be $3,000 because the plane ticket is that much more. So if you're from another country outside of the US, that payment, that deposit, is going to be significantly more. From what I heard, the US is one of the lower ones. Obviously, nearby Central American countries is going to be even cheaper, but the US, it's like $350, more or less, depending on the conversion rate, because it's 176,000 colones. So depending on the conversion that week, that day, it's going to be a little different. So that's the first one, but you'll get that back after 3 years if you convert to a permanent resident. Then there's a $98 and a $25 one, but these are complicated because these are dollar amounts, but it has to be in colones at the conversion rate of the day before your final migration appointment to submit these things. So there's actually 4 appointments, right? And the 4th and final appointment, you've already got approved for residency. You just have to go submit these final receipts, show that you've signed up for health insurance, and then they start processing you to get your DMEX ID card after that final meeting. But before we get there, So those two deposits, so the first one, the $350 one, could be made at any time in those 3 months. The other two have to be made one day before your DMEX appointment, which you have to make online on the platform on the website, just like you booked your other residency appointments, but you're not booking a platform residency appointment, not a Primera Vez, not your first time, not a follow-up, not a recurring one, but you're going to go to a different platform and you're going to look for DMEX and you're going to sign up for the DMEX. So your fourth meeting is actually your first DMEX meeting. So when you sign up for that, don't be looking for another residency meeting. You're going to need the DMEX meeting. And I made that mistake. I was like, why can't I book an appointment? Because I kept looking for a residency appointment, but I already had residency approved. So they adjusted me in the system, but didn't tell me that. So once I selected DMEX, I could book an appointment. So I did that for exactly the day that was 3 months after, because I was struggling to figure out all this stuff on my own, and when I finally did, time had flown by, and then it was a matter of getting the money, because I don't have a full-time job right now. I just teach a couple English classes online, and I've been living off savings for a few years, so to come up with these extra $500 here and there was difficult. Now here's where it gets really challenging for me, and it got scary, and this is why I started the video with, I almost quit. This is why. So I go to the health insurance office, the Social Security office, to get signed up. This is about a month before, maybe 3 weeks before my residency DMEX meeting to get my residency card. And I'm all excited, I'm happy, I'm nervous, I'm figuring things out. And they tell me your monthly payment, because you're an investor, is going to be close to $400 US. My mind exploded. I sunk in my seat, and I'm like, how am I gonna, like, I literally don't have a job right now. How am I gonna get an extra $400 a month? Where any other time in my life, that would never be a problem. But right now, as I'm getting my businesses started here and I've invested all of my money into this place, I don't have an extra $400 a month. So now I'm sitting in this office and they were like, don't sign up today. Sign up like right before your residency meeting, so you're not paying for anything extra. And they were like, we'll try to figure out a solution for you. They were like, because this is not a requirement of the Costa Rican Migration Department. This is a requirement of the Social Security foreign investor status person's monthly payment. I was like, okay. I was still like confused and shocked. And so I was thinking about what they said when I went home, and I had a couple weeks to really process it and figure out everything else and get a little more security. So I was like, all right, I think I understand what they were saying. So then I go back to the Social Security office about 2 days before my residency meeting. And I said, what can we do? I'm here to sign up. I know I have to pay the higher amount, and I figured out a way to get that money. Thank God a friend came through. You know who you are. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate you so much. And a friend helped me out for the time being. And then since then, so I was on this 3-week like super hustle, applying for upward of 50 jobs a day, every day for 3 weeks. And thank goodness, thank God, I'm knocking on wood, and I knocked my phone over. I found several opportunities since, so I don't have to worry about that income anymore. It's not a problem. Everything manifested itself and worked itself out. And there was a kind of side effect benefit of that, but I'll explain that after. So basically, for the registration of Social Security, you have to demonstrate your income and or your investment, proof of your home purchase, or a certification by an accountant that says this is how much money you're making every month, which I didn't have, but I had proof of my investment. You need originals and photocopies of all the deposits you made so they can sign you up. You have to show your immigration resolution where it says your residency is approved. So that email that I got in April 17th, I had to have that and show that to Social Security so that they would sign me up for health insurance. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to approve me because there was no proof that I got residency. So you'll fill out a CCSS form, a Social Security form when you're there, which I think is like 3 or 4 pages, and you have to write why you're applying for health insurance. And then you present all of these documents to the Caja branch in your town. Mine is Perita, so that's where I went, and the girls there were super helpful, like super helpful. So I got signed up for the full rate, which was close to $400 a month. 2 days later, I go to migration. I get all approved. I'm good to go. They take my pictures for the DMEX card. Like, everything's good. Like, big breath of relief. So the next step that I had to do was then go to the Correo in Quepos. So only certain post offices will do this process, not all of them. So Peritas did not do it. It was either Jaca or Quepos. The closest to me is Quepos. So I went to Quepos, handed them the resolution. Basically, migration gave me a form for my DMEX that said, he's approved for residency. Please accept this form as a kind of receipt for his DMEX card. So I went, I paid, I think, 4,000 colones, which is like $8 more or less. And I handed this form in. Basically, that form was mailed to the DMEX office, wherever they print the government IDs. They'll receive that, then they'll mail it back to the Quepos Correo. They'll call me probably in another week or so, or this week, and then I'll go pick up my ID card. Finally, thankfully, you can see the smile on my face. I'm super excited. Yeah, so that's the end of the process. And after this, now I have health insurance, so I can go to any public hospital, dentist, get blood tests, pharmaceuticals, pharmacy stuff. There's a laundry list of things, and I have it written in my phone somewhere. I'll do another video on that at some point. But yeah, I mean, so the public health, obviously I was paying a lot, and I will say I went into the office after and revised my income. I have an accountant in town. The accountant wrote up a reflection of my true income based on, my financial documents, and then the health insurance was able to re-register me under a lower income, which significantly dropped my health insurance per month. And then as my income rises, so as these jobs start paying off, or as my business starts to grow in Costa Rica and I start earning more money, I just go in and have my accountant every year, when she files my paperwork, is going to revise what my income is, and then my health insurance is going to reflect, I think, 14% of my annual income, or monthly income. So if I'm making $5,000 a month, I'll pay 14% of that, so like $700 more or less per month in health insurance. So what's nice is it's a socialized fund. So as an investor, I want to pay more, because me paying more in health insurance gives free health insurance to people that can't afford it, who are my neighbors. So that's fine for me. When I was in the United States, when I was a new business owner, I wasn't, earning a ton of money, and I was on healthcare, Medicare. I think that's what it is. I think it's Medicare, right? That's not for the old people. Medicaid, one of those two. Obamacare is what they called it. But I had free health insurance for several years. And years before that, I was paying tons of money for health insurance, and I never used it. But it was nice to have a social fund that I could use and go to a doctor. And they're not necessarily the best doctors, but they're still doctors, and they care about people, and they want to make a positive change. So anyway, without digressing, they were able to help me at Social Security, get an honest reflection of my income through my accountant, and knock off a zero at the end of my monthly payment for my health insurance, more or less, which was really nice. So that's very helpful now. And as I earn money every quarter, I'm going to be paying more and more. So yeah, that's the process, guys. What I learned through it was, a lot of people in your life say they want to help you when you need help, but very few will help you. You need to go out there and help yourself. And when you help yourself, the universe surprises you and sends somebody into your life that is willing to help. And that was my friend Jay that I mentioned before, where several other people said they would happily help me before I even asked. When they just heard about the issue, they said, "Here, let me help you." And then they withdrew that offer, which showed me true colors of certain people whose true colors I hadn't seen yet. But now I know who they are, and it is what it is. But the problem was solved. There's great opportunities flowing into my life. I've got really good health insurance for not a lot every month. And the best part of it all, my work ethic was reunited. reignited, I should say, and reunited with my consciousness. I've always been super hardworking. I've always had pride and, prided myself on being the guy that will work 3 to 5 times harder than everybody else around me. And I've spent 3 years cultivating peace and docile energy and like working with plants and being still, and now I need to get my inner fire going again. I'm a fire sign. I need to spark it up, but there needed to be an inspiration for my work ethic to start increasing and improving again, not just like exercise wise, but I want to hustle. I want to be earning hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a year like I was on track to in the United States. And I can do it now. I have all the resources around me, all the opportunities. So it's just a matter of press and play on my spirit and getting things going. So this process ignited that hustle, ignited that innovative flexibility in my consciousness again, and I'm super motivated to work. So like every day I'm searching for opportunities to earn, to make money, to compound wealth, to apply my skill sets and my experience to ways that I can benefit other people and then receive financial compensation in return. So I'm on super hustle mode, and I have to thank Costa Rica for presenting a couple challenges to me that got this fire burning again. So anyway, if you guys have any questions about the residency process, anything that I went through, or any insights that you took and extracted from this video, please let me know in the comments below. I appreciate you. I love you. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends and family. Anybody moving to Costa Rica, this is going to be one of those vital videos that you share with them. So please share this if you can. Appreciate you. I love you. Pura vida.